I'm Graham.
And I'm Corinne.
And we are too talented. Nailed it. I mean,
Way
nailed
easier.
it. Nailed it.
We're never doing separate recordings ever again.
I think the sound quality is not quite as high. I think you're going to teach me some things about sound engineering after this. And so hopefully we improve it just a little bit.
Because I know so much, but
You're
I'm
an
learning.
expert.
Not really.
You are an expert, especially in comparison to me.
Well, I don't know. I know a couple of little things and I'm happy to share them. But hopefully quality is getting better and better with each episode a little bit.
Welcome to the Too Talented podcast. We are happy that you're here with us today.
Yeah.
We are going to talk about a 2026 forecast of what we think the job market is going to be like in 2026. And as any forecast, we don't really know. Nobody really knows.
Yeah.
But we've got some clues that we'll share with you today and some maybe a comparison year that we'll talk a little bit about that'll hopefully help you navigate if you are in a job search, what you're going to kind of expect throughout the year. We could be way, way off base. Who knows? But it's going to be fun speculating a little bit.
Yeah, and this is a follow-up to last week's the last episode, which was recapping what's gone on in 2025 from a job market standpoint. And yeah, a lot is changing, shifting, and it seems like it does that every week. But there are trends that I think we're going to hopefully point out.
And if you didn't listen to last week's episode, there was just one word to describe the job market for 2025, and we'll just say in one word, suck.
Suck.
I think it did suck. Yeah, I think it was a hard job market overall.
Yeah. I think it has been for a couple of years, and we're going to get into that. But
for sure.
First, what is going on from a running standpoint, Graham?
Yeah, not a lot. Like, I haven't signed up for a race. I'm starting to think about maybe in January doing Colorado Springs has a series of 4 races that they put on every winter in January and February. I'm thinking about doing them. I started to realize that our child's basketball schedule may make that tough, but I'm going to do some homework. But it'd be nice to have something mellow on the calendar to motivate me to run. We got out yesterday and did a workout together, and that was really fun. So I'm still getting out every day. I just don't have anything necessarily on the calendar that I've signed up for yet. So how about you?
Yeah, I'm back in full-on training because I'm deciding to jump back into Black Canyon 100K yet again. I actually haven't pulled the trigger and officially signed up yet, but the sign-up link is sitting in my inbox waiting for me.
Is this year 6?
I think it'll be 6 or 7.
God.
No.
Please don't.
No,
not on the podcast.
Sorry. Yes, I've been there every year for a number of years, and we will check how many years exactly in a row it's been. But I just told you I can't quit that race. And this year, I don't know. I alternate distance every year, and so this year is a 100K year for me. And I've asked you to pace me. We had a lot of fun the last time we did that a couple years ago, so we'll see. But
even though I got yelled at.
Get out of here. It was like the most fun thing ever because I thought I won, even though I got 12th. I didn't think I won, but I thought I got top 10. Yeah.
That was fun.
Yeah. So it's an awesome race, highly competitive. But at this point in my running career, I feel like I got to just jump into stuff when I can because there's not going to be many, many more years to do that. So
yeah,
got to take advantage of it.
For sure.
And yeah, that's what's going on with running. We're going to take a little vacation down in Ouray over the holidays and get some running down at altitude. And I think it's going to be fun to be in the mountain air and on the back road that I grew up running on.
Christmas town.
Yeah.
It is the prettiest town at Christmas that I think we've ever been to. I love it, and the boys really like it, so it'll be fun to be down there.
Yes.
We may even have a pod from down there.
Oh,
Who knows?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it'll be like reminiscent of our first podcast that we were doing from Ouray, if you remember.
Yes, from the downstairs bedroom. That was funny. All right, so let's talk about...
Well, before we get into that, just a kind of a business update.
Business
for
update.
Stride Staffing. Man, it was slow for November and the early part of December. I was telling you that I'd sent probably a couple hundred business development emails with absolutely zero response. It was so tiring to do all that work and not get anything back. So it is hard, but I'm resilient like that, so it's fine. I sent a bunch more this morning.
Graham is what you would call a hustler.
I try, but I have a client who I thought was going to be doing some hiring until, they get a green light. You never know. But I did get the green light yesterday. So two of my candidates are going to interview either tomorrow or next week, and they will hopefully start in January. So that'll be exciting. They're going to be contractors, kind of building a software platform, which would be really cool. So that's awesome to kind of get going, because I think in January, and this thing we'll cover this in the podcast, I think we'll start to see some, let's call it green shoots into the job market that will offer some improvement. So just kind of need to get to there. So yeah, that's what's going on. Anything in your world?
I'm leaning a lot into the Women Can stuff. We just reposted a recap of all of the Voices of Strength articles that we did in 2025 with a really cool highlight quote from each woman's article, and really just inspiring. And so kind of, yeah, just like we reflected on 2025 from a hiring and job market, it's reflecting on 2025 from building a small business on the Women Can side of things. But I'm
Yep,
excited because I think it's going to keep growing. I, I don't know. I am enjoying doing it. So we're exploring some new ideas with probably apparel and merchandise and stuff like that. And then we have an artist series coming out very, very soon. So if you're listening to this, go check out Women Can Movement on Instagram. And I'm really excited for this upcoming artist collaboration. It's really neat, and a little bit different than what we've done in the past. So I'm
for sure.
excited about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, what we will do is now get into some of the 2025 forecast. So, a little bit of what we're talking about is going to be best guess, right? So, we don't have a crystal ball. If we did, we'd be a lot wealthier than we are right now. But we do have some pretty good indicators that are coming out about what we think are going to happen. So, just starting at a very high level, RSM, which is a consulting, and they started, I think, as a accounting firm, has a forecast of 2.2% GDP growth, which is kind of moderately steady. I had heard earlier, maybe about a quarter ago, they were thinking actually next year was going to be like 1.5%. So people are starting to forecast better than expected going into next year, which is great. And that's kind of a good sign for businesses that they will continue to grow, even if it's not at a huge pace. The Philadelphia Fed thinks there'll be slightly higher growth than they had been expecting. And so they put those numbers out. We did see a revision down from the BLS for 2025 in the jobs report that came out a couple days ago, and basically said they had overdone about 900,000 jobs over the past year. So, anybody who was out there job searching in 2025, when everybody was saying, oh, the job market's fine, and they were going, it's not fine, it's terrible. Well, you were right. It
Yeah.
was terrible. And now the government agencies are starting to kind of reflect that. So, what we think is going to happen kind of at a high level is hiring should kind of stabilize. We should start to see some growth, more positions out there across the board. So that's kind of what we're seeing. It's not going to be a huge like banner year like 2022 or anything like that, but we think there will be a definite improvement over 2025.
Yeah, and I think sometimes that's okay, because if you have a huge swing in one direction and it gets extreme, right, then you're going to see the repercussions from that in terms of layoffs. So it's almost like a safer, if there's just a steady increase in overall jobs. Like, I don't know, I feel like you can think of that as maybe a bit, like you're saying, a bit more of a stable kind of job market situation. But the Fed also cut the interest rate. And
Yep.
how would you think that today may or may not affect the hiring and the job market?
I think it could be a positive thing. The upside to cutting the interest rates is it allows business to borrow money
Yeah.
at a cheaper rate. So there could be more expansion in business. The downside to it is it could boost inflation. So currently, with where the tariffs are, we are seeing kind of higher inflation than I think they would have liked. But because the jobs numbers were so poor over the past year, that was creating an environment that they felt like they needed to cut a rate. So what I think it could be is jobs get better. It could boost inflation a little bit, but I think the current kind of executive administration, president probably sees tariffs as a place where they could ratchet down if they really need to get rid of some of the inflation. And I think they will. They've already started to do that in some cases. So I think a rate cut is a good idea.
Yeah. Colorado specific, do you wanna talk about that a little bit? There were 17,500 new jobs projected and GDP growth of 2.9% in 2026.
Yeah, so that's a little higher than nationwide, which is exciting if you live or want to live in Colorado. And why wouldn't you want to live here? Um,
We've tried not to live here, like, 3 different times, and it hasn't worked.
yeah,
We've always ended up coming back.
we have always come back. It's a great place. So I think the business climate here is good.
Yeah.
I think we have a number of industries, federal contractors, oil and gas. There's some financial services, telecom.
Mhm.
So it's kind of diverse here.
Construction?
Construction,
Yeah,
sure,
I
yeah,
mean,
yeah.
there's a hub of between Hazleton and Kiewit and those companies all.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So, yeah, there are some large companies here, and hopefully they will continue to hire for this next year, 2026. So, I think Colorado should do pretty well.
Yep. Okay. So moving into kind of the second part of this, like let's talk a little bit about 2010 and tell us what happened in 2010, Graham, and
Yeah,
why you think that might be an interesting comparison to where we are now in 2025.
sure. So, the positive or the nice thing for us is we've been doing this a long time, almost 20 years. So, we've been in the kind of talent acquisition slash recruiting industry. So, I thought about it, like, if I was thinking back to what I thought this year was going to be like, what could I compare it to for years past? So I thought 2010 might be an interesting comparison. In 2008, 2009, as anybody who was in the job market may remember, it was a mess. We had the Great Recession, huge amounts of layoffs across many industries. It was chaos. And as such, a lot of people lost their jobs during 2008 and 2009. It was a really rough year to be in recruiting. We had to scratch and claw for anything that was out there. Um, 2010 was the first year after that where things began to improve. We saw a kind of stabilization across the board. My kind of numbers from a sales perspective increased a pretty significant amount. There were, frankly, from the recruiting industry standpoint, there was less recruiting firms out there. A number of them went under during that period, as I'm sure a number of businesses did. So there was less people, less recruiters out there to compete with. So 2010 was definitely a year where I feel like could be similar to 2026, where we've had not necessarily any major like recession, but there's been a lot of macroeconomics things, right? The interest rates have been high. There's been wars going on. There has been a change in presidents, it's been a pretty different experience from one
AI.
president to another. Tariffs. There's been a whole lot of things that have changed over the past couple of years. And I'm hoping that 2026 is kind of like 2010, where there is a bounce back. So what I think we did see in 2026 is contract use.
2010, what we saw in 2010.
Right.
Yeah.
We don't know about 20.
Yeah.
But in 2010, we saw an increase in contract use, right? Companies weren't 100% that we were out of the woods. So they
Mhm.
started to dip their toe in the water, bring on contractors. A number of my contractors ended up getting converted towards the end of 2010 to full-time employees. So we could see that as an environment. There was definitely an increase for me in job orders, especially on the contract side, but there were some direct hire opportunities that we capitalized on as well. A number of my clients, I think my clients across the board, it wasn't just one industry, a number of them started to do some kind of key hires. One thing that I heard a lot during that year, and I'm curious if 2026 will be similar, but they had done big layoffs. And inevitably, when you do a kind of across the board layoff, you screw up and you lay off a few people that you shouldn't have.
Mm.
So you have to bring people back who can do that job. And I'm thinking that 2026 could very much be that, being that 2025 was a big layoff year. In
Yeah.
fact, bigger than any year in 2008 or 2009. So I think that could be something to kind of be looking at as well. Um,
I think we might also see, the kind of the bounce back or the boomerang effect of, like, we talked about a lot of companies using or going all in on investing in AI and then realizing that it's not doing what it needs to do. And so
yeah,
those people that got laid off either needing to be hired back or like those jobs actually being filled by individuals versus a technology.
right.
Once the kind of use case ends up panning out that maybe it's not as effective as they thought it was.
Yeah, and I think also like you've got companies, in fact, Oracle came out today and released earnings and their stock got punished because the amount of money they were spending on AI and AI related things, it's like data centers
Yeah.
and chips and stuff like that, to support kind of what they were doing with an AI from an AI perspective, they didn't show enough revenue from that.
Mhm.
So if you're an executive at a very large company saying, I'm going to be spending all my money, instead of hiring, I'm going to be spending all my money on AI and AI infrastructure, well, Wall Street's kind of shorten the leash on that. So you may see these big companies start to ramp up hiring again. Because they've been spending all their money on AI infrastructure, they haven't had the money to hire. It may come back to saying, hey, we can't do this anymore. We need to bring people back because people are necessary even for AI to work. And so we could see even a big company boom recovery in the hiring market because of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's, in a nutshell, I think what we think is going to happen in 2026. I think if you had to summarize, it would be somewhat of a recovery. We should see kind of a stabilization in the job market. I think we'll see less layoffs. And I think we'll see even the big companies start to hire more. I don't think it's going to be all out. I think it's going to be kind of in certain places where maybe they cut too deep and needed to replace some roles. And I think finally we're going to see more contractor use and possibly those contractors being converted at the end of the contract.
Yeah, and I think, both of us can attest to, in our experience, even not counting the economic factors or outside factors, recruiting in general has this cyclical nature
Yep.
by which the end of the year always slows down because everyone is out of budget and they're trying to make year-end numbers and they're trying to show, shareholder value, etc. And also working on 2026 budgets and plans and headcount plans. So the beginning of the year is a really good time to just be very, be checking in constantly on, what's going on with hiring because the number of times I've been working in, a big company that we're going to hire this starting Jan 1. We're going to
Right.
open this position starting January 1. It's when all the money and all those headcount requests have been approved. So that's a great time to start looking. And then maybe as, if you're a job seeker, to your point, also being open to contract roles or thinking about in advance kind of what a contract rate could look like for you if you're open and willing to do that might be a way to just widen your opportunities.
For sure. And if you're, have never worked a contract role, trying to figure out what a rate could be, an easy way to do it is you take what you're making on a yearly
So let's
basis,
say 150,000 for example.
150,000, let's say you make a lot of money, and you want to come up with your hourly. The average worker ever in any given year is going to work 2,080 hours.
2080.
2080. So you take your base compensation divided by 2080, and that gives you an apples to apples comparison from a rate perspective. But you also need to take into account contractors a lot of times aren't getting healthcare or benefits. So that on average for a given worker is going to be somewhere between $12,000 and $20,000 per year. So you divide.
That's a little high. I'd say 10.
Think so?
Maybe it's 10 to 15 now. I don't know. Yeah.
Inflation sucks.
Inflation. Okay, sorry. 12 to 20%.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or 12 to 20,000 a
Right.
year.
12 to
And
20,000.
probably also depends if you have a family or if you have.
Well, and you got to take into account 401k
Yes,
match
yes.
and a lot of the different benefit features that you might have.
Sure.
So then you take that number, so whatever you think your benefits might cost, divide that by 2080 and add those two numbers together. So that means if you're used to making 150,000, let's say $76 or $77 per hour would probably be what you'd want to do in terms of trying to come up with apples to apples. Also, sometimes contractor rates are a little higher. So you could probably ask for 80 and you could probably get 80, depending on your skill set, depending on how demanded it is.
Yeah, I like to just take it for another example. You say you make 100,000. I just cut it in half and say that 50 an hour, 100,000, half of 100 is 50, and then add a bit on top of that for the benefits, etc. So it comes out pretty similar to if you divided it by 2080 and then added a bit on top. So
For sure.
But think about that and maybe don't, when you're talking to recruiters or if you get inquiries, maybe out of the gate, don't say you're opposed to a contract role because it could work. And a lot of times, like you're saying, it could turn into a full-time opportunity, in the right situation.
For sure. I mean, I think flexibility right now is your friend. I've talked to a number of people over the past, actually just even recently, who have been looking for a while, and they had some strong parameters around what they absolutely had to have. And, you don't want to come out and say this to people directly, but it's like, hey, if you got a little more flexible, you probably could have landed a job by now.
Mhm.
Have you thought about that? And, at some point that person may need to, whether it's, I want to be 100% remote. Well, you might consider a hybrid role where you go into the office a few days per week, or a commute that's a little longer than you would ideally like to have, or a role that has maybe a little more travel than you'd like to have. Right now, I think that flexibility could pay off.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah,
All right, so hang in there. Hopefully, it's a steady increase, and there's kind of hope with beginning of the year, budgets opening. But yeah, we're hoping that 2026 will be a year of steady, stable, overall growth in the job market.
definitely. So, final part for today. And we got a couple new questions. I
Thanks
got
for sending them in.
Yes,
Woo!
absolutely.
We need to shout out the names of the people who send these in.
I thought about that.
You don't want to give them
I
out?
don't
Oh,
know.
yeah,
I didn't ask their permission,
that's
so I
right.
don't want to just assume it would be okay. So I won't this time, but maybe I'll start asking
Or
people.
we could do initials. This is from DS. This is from I don't
Yeah,
know.
we could do that.
Just to give them love.
Yeah, absolutely. So the first question is: are cover letters still necessary?
Good question. Good
What do you
question.
think? I know we've talked a bit about this in the past.
Cover letters still necessary. Yeah, I mean, I feel like they're not unless it's like maybe I mean, some companies are gonna require one.
If it's required,
Yeah,
obviously.
obviously, you gotta do it if it's required, but I think, at the end of the day, like, as a society and probably as in terms of hiring and recruiters and stuff like that, I think people, have very low attention spans. And so I don't know if even it's going to get read if you provide one. I think that to your point on kind of some of our notes, having a summary
Mm-hmm.
and maybe changing that summary based on what you're applying for
Yes.
is the way. So it's the way forward. So what's that from? That's from a movie,
I
isn't
don't
it?
know.
It's the way. So yeah, have basically at the end of the day, it is important to show very early on in whatever somebody's looking at to review your job application, why you're a fit for it. But I think that the best way to do that is either a little paragraph or some bullets right at the very top saying, this is what I offer, or this is why I'm a fit, or this is what I'm bringing to the position. And that could include a bullet around cover letters. I think sometimes are like, well, why are you a fit for us from a culture standpoint? What do you like about our company? What do you know about our company? You could put that in a summary.
Absolutely.
Like with, I'm a 15-year recruiting professional with a strong interest in developing further in the, tech industry, and I'm targeting, SaaS companies specifically. You could put that in
Sure.
your summary or your bullets at the top of that. Take the place of a cover letter and have it all in one place for somebody.
I 100% agree. I think the summary is the new cover letter. We're trying to be efficient here, trying to, yeah, do better on 2 pages of paper than having multiple pages with a cover letter. I think cover letters are pretty outdated. Summary is where it's at.
Yeah. Yeah. So unless required, maybe don't waste your time doing it.
Hmm. Yeah.
Okay. Another question we got.
Yeah.
Okay. Here's the question, and then you can answer this one. Is AI wiping out jobs?
Yes. This was from someone not in my network that kind of pinged me on this, and just kind of a funny general question. So I'll take it from this angle. I haven't seen anything yet where AI has completely displaced someone's job. I just haven't run into it yet. I think what I have been seeing is you talk to a lot of people who are leveraging it pretty well. I think myself included. I use AI a lot. I put in some things that help me understand kind of how to improve maybe some of my business writing. I have had it kind of teach me some pieces of that. I had a really slow period in November. So at one point I said, here's all the things that I've done. What would you recommend as the next step? And it offered some great ideas. Some really great ideas that I've been doing. So, I'm using it a pretty good bit. I've talked to software developers who are using it to do some of their coding, especially with Gemini helping out a lot there. I've talked to a number of finance people who have been asking it to take big documents like a SEC report, 10K, 10Q, and then synthesize it and give just a little bit of a like a paragraph of like, what is this really saying? What should I be taking away from this, as opposed to having to go through the document and really read it? So I think it's very helpful at efficiency. But what I'm not hearing is someone say, "Oh, so they implemented this bot that took my job." I've yet to run into a candidate who feels that way.
Yeah.
So I don't think so. Um, One other thing, and I'll kind of talk about this as a story. I've run into a company that decided they weren't technical. They vibe coded in their entire platform.
Can you please define vibe coding?
Vibe coding is like, it's like prompting an AI about what you want, and it develops it for you. So they used Figma to vibe code this platform so they could show it off to investors. And it worked. They were able to get investor money because they were able to show off what the platform was going to look like. So instead of hiring a software development team to build that whole platform, they vibe coded it and they were able to use it. Well, 6 months later, now they need a platform. So what are they doing? They're going to hire software developers to build the platform. So it didn't really stop them from hiring those people. It just delayed it a little bit. And the other cool thing is it allows them really hone in on exactly what they want it to look like, what they want it to do through vibe coding. And then they can show a software developer, this is exactly what I want. And it helps them figure out, okay, I'm a software developer. I'm going to give you exactly what you're asking for, as opposed to spending hours upon hours describing everything you need this thing to do. Well, here's what we created. Can you recreate this in, workable software?
Yeah. So it created like a concept.
Yep.
Yeah. And maybe, I don't know. Do you know if that company used AI at all in creating their business plan overall?
I don't know how much
Yeah.
AI outside of this
Yeah.
that they used.
That's an interesting idea too. But yeah, I don't know. I think people are going to also get frustrated, when there's only bots doing customer service.
Yes.
And you actually can't get an answer that you need from it, and things like that. So yeah, I don't know that. And then, like you're saying, maybe it's just a shift in what the jobs do. So maybe you still need somebody who understands exactly what you're trying to do to be able to prompt the AI appropriately, or to be able to leverage it in the right way. And so that's where a subject matter expert and people with actual experience are still going to be valuable.
Yeah, I think it's going to dramatically increase efficiency. I've heard some people say maybe it could lead to a shorter workday, shorter work week. I think that could be possible. I think, as Americans, we're kind of work obsessed. So instead of shortening our work week, you're probably just going to do more every day with the extra time that you have, of course. But I think that's possible. I think it makes us more efficient, more productive.
Yeah. Was it Finland that went to one of the companies
Iceland, I think.
went to a 4-day work week in 2025? That'd be great. That'd be good for our overall mental health.
It would be. I just don't know that anybody would do it. I wouldn't. I mean, yeah. No.
Okay, there's a question for the audience. If you could be efficient enough to, what?
Work 4 days in a week and take a 3-day weekend every single weekend, would you do it? Question the audience.
Yeah. I'd do it. Heck yeah. Another day to train, and I don't know.
I would not.
Work smarter, not harder sometimes.
Work smarter and harder and get ahead fast.
Oh, no! Crap. All right. So we want to wrap it up with what you should do heading into 2026. And I think I was just going to say, like, a lot of our podcasts recently have been job seeker heavy. And I think maybe that's a result of the fact that there are a lot of job seekers right now versus a lot of jobs. And the goal of the overall podcast is to inform and kind of educate around both job seeking and hiring. Yep. And so, this will be balanced in the future, hopefully in 2026, when there's a lot more hiring happening with the hiring manager side. And I think we'll talk, we will have podcasts that are around like, what should you do as a hiring manager? Yep. What should you do? What should you be looking for? How do you create, the right profile for your jobs? Because that's equally as important. But for this one, okay, what job seekers should do heading into 2026? What should they do, Graham?
I think you alluded to it earlier, just being ready, paying attention. And moving quickly. If you see a job that's very interesting to you that seems to fit, apply as quickly as possible. I had a horrible experience posting a job 2 weeks ago where I got 400 applicants in 4 hours. And as a single person reviewing them, They were a mess. I mean, it was not a great experience posting a job right now. I got so much volume, and I only ended up with 6 qualified candidates out of 400, which is, yeah, crazy. So, but I think one of the things you need to do right now is be paying attention, set alerts, be one of the early applicants that gets reviewed. Because I did review all 400. I didn't spend very much time on them. I spent probably 10 seconds of resume, but no one's going to, outside of me, probably going to look through 400 resumes that applied in 4 hours. And then I had to shut it down because I couldn't stand to get any more resumes because I was going to have to keep reviewing them. So I probably missed out on people who were at night applying after they left their job. So I missed those candidates. So it's not a great system right now, but if you are applying online, do everything in your power to be an early applicant.
Yeah, and then take that next step after applying to find some of the people that might be involved in
Yes.
the hiring process for that job and
Yep.
reach out to them directly. Let as many people as you can know that you've applied to the job so that they can find it in the black hole of applicants. Yeah, if you know anybody at the company, that's a great way that people that are working at the company are going to know who is working on that job in the recruiting department, and they can be your direct line into kind of getting your resume noticed and reviewed. So take
Absolutely.
that next step as well, and that ties into also just general networking
Yeah.
of just talking to people, letting them know what you're looking for, some of the trusted people in your network. If you're in a job and you're looking, you're not going to maybe advertise it as much by putting your open to work on, but talking to some people maybe that you've worked with in the past, not at your current company, but maybe that you've worked with in the past. I'm trying to keep my options open for my next role. If you hear of anything, let me know. That's always helpful because, as we know, many, many people end up getting jobs through their network beyond anything else.
Yes, absolutely. And I think the last thing, and I talked about this already, but just be flexible. Having these hard and fast requirements for your job, this may not be a time where that works right now. You may have to get flexible with commute, travel, on site, hybrid, remote. You just may need to find the role that works for you and make some concessions. And it's not a forever thing. It may be something in 2027, 2028, the job market starts to roar and then you have more options. But I think right now, if you are 100% intent on landing a job in the next few months, being flexible is a really good way to do it.
So I think being flexible doesn't mean that you can't also ask for something on your side to leverage that.
Yep.
So if it is a contract role or a role where you have to commute more, maybe you ask for a little bit higher hourly rate to account for that commute or to account for that time. And that might be that way you're being flexible to what the job is, but you're taking care of yourself and you're continuing to get paid for the value that you bring in the appropriate way. So it
Yep.
doesn't mean that you have to concede to things or you have to take a lower pay. It just means you have to work with what is available out there.
I totally agree. Awesome. Well, thanks for joining us today. I think we're all hopeful that we see a job market stabilization in 2026. We're hoping that's going to be like 2010. Ridiculous.
That's a long
2010.
time from now.
We're going to be really old then. But yeah, so we're hoping it'll be like 2010, where it's kind of a bounce back year where people start to kind of get back into jobs and things normalize to some extent.
Yeah. So share the pod with somebody you know. Give us a review if you wouldn't mind so people can find it. And we also have a 2026 job market prep checklist coming
Yep.
out on Patreon. What is our Patreon, Graham?
It's just Patreon / Too Talented.
TOO?
No,
Or TWO? Sorry.
the number
Sorry.
2.
TWO. Oh, the number two.
Number 2 talented. We're gonna be like, what?
The number 2 talented
Talented.
podcast.
Yes.
Okay. On Patreon.
Yeah.
Find us there. And we'll see you again very soon.
Thanks.